Good evening, everybody. Good to see everyone here on a fine day. I think it's getting to be autumn maybe, or maybe not. Anyways, we'll take a roll call, please.
Trustee Fabian?
Present.
Trustee Alette? Here. Trustee Sikorowski?
Here.
Trustee McCall?
Here.
Trustee South?
Here.
Trustee Chadwick?
Here.
President Irving?
Here, thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll take approval of minutes of the August 18th minutes meeting.
I move the board to approve the regular board meeting minutes of August 18th, 2020. All trustees had a chance to review them ahead of time.
Second motion?
Any corrections or discussion? If there's none, we'll take a roll call for approval.
Trustee Fabian?
Aye.
Trustee Alette? Aye. Trustee Sikorowski?
Aye.
Trustee McCall?
Aye.
Trustee South?
Aye.
Trustee Chadwick?
Aye.
President Irving?
Aye, thank you very much. Moving to item number 5, citizens' comment. This is the first opportunity citizens to make your comments. Limit to one time, 3 minutes if you're alone or with representing a group, it's 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to come up first round here, we'll have a second round later on. So you can come up now and talk. Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Name and address for the record.
Jerry Siegel, 5856 Ramona.
If you could sign, please, sir. Just sign.
Can I talk for a second?
Yeah, okay.
As long as you promise.
I was here last meeting and I spoke about the traffic signal on Loomis and Grange. That it's been covered up for 2 months. It's a state project, I realize that, but it's been covered up for 2 months. It's still covered up. I went there, in fact, I had to sit there through a red light because it was red light and there's no cars coming. I talked at the village gave me some interest, but everybody's eyes sort of glazed over when I did it. It's now 2.5 months that thing has been sitting there and no action has been taken. I just want to go on record. I'll come every 2 weeks and I'll give you an update on how things go. But I can probably say the same thing. The other one is I spoke about narrowing the right turn lanes on Grange at 60th and 76th. So people can make a right turn on red and not back up because most people in the right lane do turn right on those 2 streets. I was supposed to get a call from the DPW or whoever takes care of it. I never heard anything. Problem could be solved by just narrowing the lanes. If that's not feasible, then something else could be done. But people just sit there and the first guy doesn't turn right, 7 cars behind them that are turning right just have to sit there. Could be controlled. The other one I just wanted to clarify on the agenda. I think you discussed the agenda, which I brought up. One of the items we brought up last week was a fee to charge the apartment dwellers so they couldn't use the refuse lots. And it was decided that it was probably right to charge these people and let them use the lots. As an afterthought, somebody brought up that the electronic disposal thing cost the village money. I see that is on the agenda this week, and it's very misleading if you want to read the sentence. Because the way it's written, it looks like the electronic disposal thing is going to apply only to the non-residents. That applies to everybody. That looks like a fee that could be snuck in there, and people aren't aware that it is snuck in there. It does appear misleading the way it is on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. We'll work on county as well, so one of us maybe come up with something.
Human sex with the state. So you probably have better luck spending
You ever
time.
try to talk to the state?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
You guys have a lot better
My
contact,
good response.
avenue to talk to somebody than I do. The whole intersection is in Greeley. You guys have to have contact.
We don't have control over it. The state does. Kent Falls can.
I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying that somebody should be calling and pushing the state. It's all in
We haven't
the-
done that.
I'm
We haven't done
We
that.
have, and I know
They don't
Ken,
have to listen to us.
they don't.
It's like wanting it's similar to wanting your neighbor to cut. Can't, we can do it.
Okay, thank you very much, so we'll push that on. Anyone else wishing to come up and talk this round? Please. Good evening. Good seeing you.
Hi. I'm Carl Hackbarth of 6026 Middleton Court South in Greendale. Couple things that brought me here today. I live across the street, that makes it coming here a lot easier. There's talk about additional fees for the dump. I love the dump. I'm there at least once a week during the summer. And appearing from the amount of stuff that's there, a lot of people are at the dump. Probably too many people are at the dump. I've been a resident here now 30+ years, and I feel for the people who run the dump, let's put it that way. It's a great treasure, the dump, but I think we're getting everyone's junk from Greendale plus outside of it. So I have no problems with recycling fees for televisions, refrigerators. If you buy a refrigerator at Lowe's and you want them to pick it up and haul it away, they charge you for that. And there's no reason that Greendale, myself, should be, and you guys should be burdened with these convenient fees. So, you know, geez, a citizen standing up and saying, you know, charge us more, you know. You know, I have a neighbor who has a 3-yard dump trailer. You know, occasionally we go to the Greendale dump with material. We have no problems with paying to dump there. You know, if I remodel my house and show up with a 3-yard dump trailer, I should either have a building permit in my hand or I should be paying extra to dump that material. So that's just my thoughts. The other thing is, I come here and ask you to spend some more money. Basically, I live on 60th and Grange, and there's a number of large ash trees that have been dead for 4 years as you enter the village, you know, one of the main entrances to the village. You know, in the past, they kind of shielded us from Goodwill Industries. We didn't mind so much when it was Ryman's, but now it's Goodwill, and they light up the building quite a bit. Also, since these ash trees have been dead, there's a lot more water flowage that comes down at all times of the year, particularly in the winter, and we get ice buildup on the back public sidewalk. So if we can do something to get those trees removed, they're unsightly and eventually they're going to fall down. And I understand your village forester is really good, and he and his small crews are running around like crazy taking care of this. So if there's anything that we can do as citizens to speed this process up, I would appreciate it. And even if it came down to sponsor a tree and letting us know if we want, you know, additional trees planted there, what is it going to cost us? You know,
Well, I think you did plenty by coming here tonight. and talking
okay,
about it.
so, you know, there used to be a sign there that said, you know, Tree City USA or something like that. Well, that's gone. The signpost is still there, which I don't understand. You know, I hate signposts with nothing on it. So,
Thank you.
anyways,
Well, thank you for
much.
coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, good point.
Excellent. Anyone else wishing to talk to our first? All right, seeing no one, we'll move on. I'm sorry, Joe, start walking towards there. It's all right. You can get right behind it within 6 feet. All right, Joe. Okay.
Joe Russ, 16800 West Sherwood Drive, New Berlin, representing 5599 Vassar Street. Regarding the dump, after watching some of the last meeting, I think many of you are missing the point on the request for letting non-resident property owners use the dump. $75 a year for a permit, so I can take buckthorn and willow debris to a dump my property tax is already supporting. I'm better off in the bonfire of my property's driveway. Fire chief might not like that, but we'll get rid of it. Based on the mailings the village sends out on housing workshops in the past, you obviously know who owns the rental properties in the village. Don't try to make a quick buck off of row or townhouse owners because the DPW fears a few apartment owners might start using the dump more. You know, there's a lot of townhouse owners that don't live in the village then they need to use it from time to time. I don't think we'll be bringing in construction trailers full of stuff, but, you know, we get treated debris and everything else, and we gotta get rid of it somehow. And, I know you guys have looked at what other neighboring communities do, and I think the idea came up because New Berlin charges apartment owners to dump at our recycling center, as we call it. They do not allow, just for the record, they do not allow electronics to be dropped off. TVs and computers cannot be dropped off, they're being dropped off. Refrigerators, humidifiers, but no electronics. So in that case, you know, we'd be in the same boat. But, you know, if there's good days when I wanna clean up my yard and stuff, yeah, I can run all the way to New Berlin and back. But we only open 3 days a week, not 6 days a week. So, yeah, $75 number that was tossed around. If anything, why don't you come up with a punch card for non-resident property owners? Let's say they get to use it, access to the dump 6 or 10 times a year. That way you wouldn't have over abuse. You'd be able to keep track of how many times somebody comes. And, you know, we'd be able to use something that we do pay taxes for. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. For comments, anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Heather Godley and I live at 5331 Millbank Road. And I just wanted to come before you again to encourage the village to sign on to the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute's declaration of racism as a public health crisis. Even more so with what we've seen happening in Kenosha, we need to acknowledge that racism is a very serious issue and that it does have the impact on public health. It is a crisis, and I think it's a free but symbolic act. Many cities around the state have already signed on to this declaration. Appleton, Green Bay, Madison, our own county, Milwaukee County has signed on, Dane County Health Council, Florence County Health Department, several other departments. So I just want to encourage you to consider doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming tonight.
And I also wanted to just thank you for putting these on YouTube. I'm gonna take myself out and watch it on YouTube. I really do appreciate it, or that you would learn from it.
Glad you watched it.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
good evening. How are you?
What, how are you guys?
All right.
This is my first time speaking at something like this. So
I'm great. We're glad to have you.
Great, my name is Ashley Retzloff. I live at 5706 Carnation Court. I think we can all agree that citizens have the right and the power to hold their safety institutions accountable for their practices and policies. And it's been my observation that some of these best practices listed in the rules and regulation updated last September 24th, 2019 are not necessarily being followed to the extent that they could be. For example, Article 2.01 states that the commission shall hold regular meetings at the time and place designated in the public notice for the meeting as called by the president of the commission. All meetings of the commission shall comply with the Wisconsin statutes relative to the notice. I take issue with this because the last time that the Fire and Police Commission met was June 5th, and I've been living here for 3 years, and this is the first time that I've really been aware that they meet. And so I just encourage the Police and Fire Commission to review those rules and regulations, update them, and then hold them to the extent that they are due.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Just if I could, just so you know, our Fire and Police Commission does not have what's called optional powers.
Okay.
So they do not run the department. They
Okay.
don't make the rules. The chief makes the rules and I'm the chief's boss. You're like in Milwaukee, the commission's the chief's boss.
Mhm.
I'm the chief's boss.
Okay.
Our commission only hires and fires the chief and approves appointments and handles discipline appeals.
you'd allow me a moment, just got last minutes to make and ceremony. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Great, anyone else on this first round? Another opportunity towards the end? Yes.
Jason Swarovski, 6030 Doyle Street, also owner of J&J Contractors. Just want to thank Greendale. I'd like to thank the Greendale Lions for an amazing event that they helped me put on this weekend. The Greendale Lions is such an asset to our community, and I'd like to just go on record thanking them and saying what an amazing job they did. Also, through our community, we were able to raise $1,100 that we donated to the Historical Society. So I think that's really awesome too. So I just thought that'd be something I should let you guys know. So thank you much.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for that.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jason.
All right, anyone else? All right, with that, then we will move on to standing committees. And our first standing committee is Trustee Barbie and the Finance Committee.
Thank you, President Birmingham. We've only got a couple of items for tonight. The first item is Finance Committee's internal audit review bills presented for payment. We rotate this among various trustees. This particular month, Trustee Self had the opportunity to pull P-cards, checks, and ACH from the bills being presented, and then he does a in-depth look at them to see that all was followed. So Trustee Self, you could,
Yep, both several items, had one question, it was answered to my satisfaction, and everything looked good to check out.
thank you so much. Does anybody else have any questions with any of the? Then we're going to go on to approval of accounts payable checks for payment. Finance Committee is recommending the board approve the following. Accounts payable checks 56787 through 56837 in the amount of $725,872.07. ACH payments in the amount of $568,991.47, and P-card purchases in the amount of $118,723.38 for a grand total for approval for this month to the board of $1,413,586.92. Second. Thank you. Second. Does any trustee have any questions of any of the bills, P-cards, ACH payments that were in the packets for presented? I see none, so then I would ask for a roll call for approval.
Trustee Alette?
Aye.
Trustee Swarovski?
Aye.
Trustee McFall?
Aye.
Trustee South?
Aye.
Trustee Chadwick?
Aye.
President Birmingham?
Aye.
Trustee Barton?
Affirmative. Last item is the status accounts from July 31st, 2020. I don't know if there's an update that we're having. No. Okay, we will not have an update for that particular time. In that case, that concludes the Finance Committee's agenda.
Thank you very much, Trustee Barbie, and we'll move right along. Don't believe there's any planning commission tonight, stuff?
No
Very good. Library board, Trustee Self?
Okay, couple quick updates. We had a meeting, we've increased the hours now that school's back in session, to 68 hours per week from 49. This includes Sundays, starting the 8th of September. The community room will also reopen to community groups. Monday through Thursday, we're open 9 to 8, Friday 9 to 6, Saturday 9 to 2, and Sunday 1 to 4.
So did you say 68 hours from 49?
61 hours from 49, so 12 additional hours.
Excellent.
We're working on, the director's working on staff evaluations and the budget. Additionally, the Friends of Library approved a $6,500 wish list request for a variety of special purchases. And that is my update from the library.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, what about Public Works? And Board of Health?
I have no meeting, but there's a meeting with
2 weeks on Tuesday.
Very good, thank you. About safety officer, Jason, is that excellent? Park and Rec, trustee Sellers?
We do not have any.
No meeting and public celebration? I think that was very good, thank you. Right, I think moving on to old business, number 7, I have no board committee appointments or resignations tonight. With that, we'll move on to new business, DOT 2066. Discussion and necessary action to approve an ordinance amending section 11.9, garbage and refuse disposal regarding the use of public works refuge and recycling yard by non-residential property owners. Very good. Sarah?
Sarah wrote it, so.
Sarah, you wrote it.
Based on the discussion at the last meeting, it will cover anybody who owns a residential property of 1 to 3 units, which is what we would pick up garbage for. And then it says that you must get a permit, which then is covered in the resolution.
So what did that say before, you know?
That whole section B is new.
So it didn't say they couldn't use it.
Well, it says it's defined, but they're not.
I couldn't find it said.
The ordinance states that they have to show a photo ID stating that they are village residents, not a property tax bill. So the ordinance states it has to be a photo ID.
That's fair. I guess that's fair. All right, thank you very much. Is there, discussion on this? First, we should take a motion and a discussion. Anybody?
I move to approve ordinance 925 to repeal and recreate section 11.09, parentheses 7 regarding refuse disposal of the public works yard.
All right, let's have a discussion then.
I've got a lot of feedback from this, all different directions on that. Some of it for, I know we discussed it pretty much last time, but the fact that an apartment renter, the way I read it, is not allowed to use our facility. They have to put in their current dumpster at their apartment complex. And I still don't know if I feel, I understand the rationale behind it, that they have a dumpster there, it's full, you know, if they can go there, they tax it for it. So I just don't know if we should continue and maybe think about this longer or whatever, but,
The 1 to 3 families can.
okay.
The renters
I mean, you
can't.
gotta realize who can.
The reason we didn't include complexes is because typically they have a manager who lives on premises,
Right, that's key, that's key, that's.
who would then, could bring truckloads in from a 80-unit apartment complex.
So somebody renting a side-by-side, they're okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Yeah,
That's the way I read it.
Using the permit.
okay.
But we couldn't.
The other thing I was gonna bring up, and I might be more related to the next item, but I want to bring up here. At this point, I started thinking when I went home, we want to charge for the TVs to be brought in and that, and the reason I have an issue with that right now is that we originally started this talking about residents using the dump who don't live here, and then we morphed it into apartment residents not paying to use that, and then all of a sudden a fee gets charged in that we haven't done before, and I think if we want to add fees to anything in the village, we should have a meeting set up just to increase fees. To slide this in to this, I don't feel comfortable with. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but I just don't think, I feel like this should be done in a separate entity rather than forced into this. I'm not for.
And I would agree to you to a point, but the point is, anytime we open up something, especially an ordinance, this is the time to review it. And I think that's just what we did, is that we were looking at the whole recycling and refuge ordinances, and in fact, asking whether we should change it. If we would have another meeting, then we're just going back to something we know, well, the question, and I would agree, but I'm thinking again, because of what is required in the state of Wisconsin, is you have to do electronics, and the village pays money for that. If we want to eat that money, I understand that, then we should just, that's why we have this board. If somebody was asking me before this meeting the same question, and I said, that's why this board makes the decision whether we're gonna continue to offset that cost, do we still pay, or does we just pass it on? So,
I understand what you're saying. My thing is that if we're going to make that decision, this whole discussion here started on really a different topic. I mean, it really wasn't to create more fee income for the village. It was about,
exactly.
and to slide it in here, I'm not saying I have a problem with the fee, it's just I don't think we should be including it in this part. I think it's separate ordinance, or it's separate to look at, that's just my opinion.
Donna, please.
So do we know how much it does cost us, like, to dispose of ATV?
How much does it cost us for electronics a year?
For the older tube TVs, it's 40 cents a pound, and for the newer LCD thinner TVs, it's 20 cents a pound.
So do we have a lot of TVs that are dropped off every year, or?
Oh, yeah. Do we know how poundage weight, idea?
Yeah, it was around 84 tons last year.
84 tons times 200,000.
84 tons of electronics?
Yes.
No, TVs.
TVs. Yes.
Since, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong or not, but most communities don't take electronics, is that correct?
It's about 50-50. Anybody that does take electronics charges for electronics. So part of what I brought in those guidelines, I was asked to bring comparables of surrounding municipalities of their drop sites. And those surrounding municipalities, anybody that takes TVs charges for TVs. We're the only one that don't. So that's why I feel we're seeing abundance of televisions that are not coming from retail, and we're paying for that over the course of the year. There's a lot of other surrounding municipalities that charge for free on items. We don't charge for that, but we don't get charged for that right now because we got it at the beginning, and that company doesn't charge us for those items right now.
So this still costs us in the thousands of dollars a year.
Yes.
Yes.
So I just want to clarify this, because I know 8,400 sounds like a lot, that's 8,400 pounds, right?
Tons.
It's, well, $50,000 a year about.
It's 84 tons times, so
84 times 2,000.
Isn't it?
84 tons.
not 84 pounds, 84 tons, so that 84 times 2,000 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, you,
That was the total that like.
So what's that number
From
around?
the end of 2000.
30 cents times.
I did 30 cents, $50,400
In just television?
in just television.
Just television, and that's why I said, we're open 6 days a week,
Coming out here and talking.
they're coming in, and a prime example is because when you have other communities, and I had this issue when I was the director of public works, when you have other communities that charge, guess what? Hey, I got a TV, I'll bring it to Greenville, because they don't charge, or, I'll throw it in the back of my pickup truck, I'll take it to Greenville because they don't charge. I think, and I know for a fact that we are getting more of other people's trash, just like this gentleman said, he's right on track with that. We get a lot of trash from other communities due to the fact that, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my mom and dad live in West Dallas or whatever, and they have a TV, and they charge over there, and I'll just bring it to Greenville. That's the issue we have, and this is what's happening. I mean, take a look at the cost.
has been in recycling for years. Green is well known, Greendale in the south part of Milwaukee, we just never charged, and we really just never brought it up. More that, now I didn't know it was up to 84 tons, but isn't it a dumpster every couple days? If you ever go to the yard.
We have crates out there where we put all the e-waste and try to separate it as best as we can between TVs and monitors and.
If you ever go in there, just go in the yard, drive by once, and there are so many TVs there. I know they're not green.
We've been fortunate over the years that we've had a facility that will take it. I mean, if all of a sudden they stop taking it, nobody wants it, or whatever, we're open, people are gonna keep bringing it in. We need to somewhat absorb that cost, and again, I don't think $25 for a TV is the worst thing.
I guess I,
Go ahead.
I didn't finish mine. guess I don't have a problem with that, then with the $25 for the TV, that does make sense, we can't afford to keep, paying for that. But I wish we could have it split up, because I don't agree with having the, renters not be able to use the dump. And then it's all the same ordinance. I think that, I'm just saying, that's why I have to go for it.
Yeah, please.
So I have just a few points to address. You want to go first?
No, you go.
So I get where Ron's coming from, because this was introduced as,
To bring this up.
the apartment owners, and then we had citizens come and talk about, I'm a renter. And then I think we talked to Rod and just said, hey, how about when we're gonna open this up, let's just have you bring us your best, proposal. And then in the proposal, we talked about both of those topics, and then also he said, hey, I think this is another thing is we should be charging for these TVs. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't directly like, hey, we're gonna start talking about this, but when we opened it up, I think that it's fair, and it was discussed last week too. So I don't feel like they were being sneaky by putting it in here. But to Donna's point, I own apartments, and honestly, like I've got a 6-unit, and if the renters could just go to the dump, I would get rid of my waste management dumpster, and I'd pay $140 a month, and say, hey, you can go to the city dump, right? I think that would happen.
I think we talked about that
A lot of
last week, is that the larger places have a dumpster, which costs them money every month. Why would they need it? They could get rid of that and really just go on Greenbelts, and that's my problem.
Who wouldn't do it? Yeah, who wouldn't do it? I
But
know.
it would be a requirement for 6 units, I know 3 unit business, was it for a 6 unit that we have?
This is the city of Milwaukee, and
Oh, I'm talking.
they require, I don't know what the unit count is,
Yeah.
3 or 4 or more, you have to, they don't pick up.
It's a state law, anything more than 3 units has to.
I'm just saying, like,
Has to,
we have a
it has to
bay,
provide,
that you
has to
know.
provide garbage pickup, their own garbage pickup and recycling.
And it's really because of so just think if those guys could use our dump, what our total garbage would be where it is right now. It would just be massive, because I would just have a truck every Saturday, dump truck, or pick up all the garbage and bring it to your dump, because it is.
But that's something we've always had in the ordinance, correct? And so it's not a change. It's just we really weren't aware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's become more prevalent now because people are asking, hey, when I live here, so okay. Anyone else, discussion on this item? Then we will take this up for a vote, let's just do the first and second. And again, this is on the first item. The first one.
Trustee Sabrowski.
Aye.
Trustee McFall.
Aye.
Trustee Snell.
Aye.
Trustee Chadwick.
Aye.
President Birmingham.
Aye.
Trustee Garvin.
Aye.
Trustee Elect.
And the first one is the TV.
Oh, yes, first one is the first one.
No, nay.
No, they're not for this one. Ordinance amending, okay. All right. All right, and then, DOT 2067. Discussion necessary action to approve a resolution setting fees for the refuse and recycling yard, including the disposal of TVs and non-residential property owners permit. And Sarah, you talk on this one?
Again, we wrote it up based on the last meeting, that it'll be the $25 per use and the $70 per use. They have to get the permit ahead of time, get it online, and set that up for, in person to Village Hall. The TV thing, we did propose starting 1/1, we have time to notify people through the newsletter.
And if we figured out the dollar, all the exchanges would go at the yard, they take the money.
Not at the yard, they have to.
Or online, correct?
All right, I'll take a motion and a second, and then we can discuss.
I move to approve resolution R 2020-12 regarding fees for the refuse and recycling center of a $70 permit per visit for non-resident owner of a 1 to 3 family unit residential property, and $25 for the disposal of a television beginning January 1st, 2021. I second it.
Very good. I'll open for discussion, let's start with Jason.
A resident actually had an idea I really liked, the punch card. Is that a possibility that they could get a punch card, whether it be one time, 3 times? I mean, is that something that we could possibly do?
It'd probably be easier just to have them buy 10 permits at one time, use them one at a time.
I know, but I'm saying get 1 or 2 free visits and then they start paying.
You guys, maybe the punch card will cost us a lot to, create a punch card. I don't know how many people are going to use this.
Could do that, we could do that, I mean, this is on this, so if you want to come around and then have another meeting on an option, we can look at doing that, certainly could do that, so. Let's, so yours is on the table, yes.
Is there, any need to put in the, actual size of the, a full-size pickup truck? The actual size of the cab in the back? Do we need to put that in case things change?
We copied this from other municipalities and it seems to be working there.
It is,
Okay.
isn't it?
It says a full-size truck.
Yeah, no more than, I would almost say even for residents, if they're, like the citizen said earlier, I know Rod didn't propose this, but I would have even gone with, hey, if you're gonna bring in huge trailers, there should be a charge for that, or like tons of stumps, like, I don't know. So I think we're still, even we're putting this in $25 for a TV, I still think we're one of the most, taking, or we'll take whatever compared to other people. We're open way more than anyone else. So I still think we've got a great jump of charging for TVs.
I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware that South Milwaukee charges $1 a bag for garbage, and I think is it $3 for yard waste?
$3 just to drive it.
Yeah, it's $3 just to drive it.
There's always been that discussion, I have
You
to
take- you
be at
take-
the yard.
So, I mean, everybody's trying to keep costs down when they're dumping, and again, that's, that's probably the biggest thing right now, like I said, we're open 6 days a week. We just need to start, like, recuperating some of our costs, so.
Just a question, Sarah. This $70, is that consistent or close to what other communities are doing? Right?
I can calculate that out. I don't know if anybody who's doing it or not doing it, how we calculated that was using what a ton of waste, because that's basically 1 ton pickup truck can carry a ton of waste. If somebody brought in literally a ton of shingles, it would cost us plus really a little bit of an administrative charge just for taking payments and things. We figured we'd at least break even at $70 a load. And I can also compare it to, if anybody's seen that Bagster product that I think is Waste Management offers as a similar alternative where you just buy this bag and then you call them, they pick it up. The minimum charge on that is $150. So this is a cheap alternative.
Is it $150 plus the bag?
I thought it was a total 150 minimum. So I think then they weigh it and then they charge you for.
Yeah, because I do quite a few bag stores and it's usually around 2 times 220.
No, it is.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Oh, I know.
It's almost sometimes better to get a dumpster.
The other,
Yeah, go ahead.
and, that part of it, I still want to, now we're back on this.
Yeah.
I just don't think this is the right way to add a fee on the residents. I'm not saying I'm against that. I understand the amount of volume that we're taking over there. I would rather see us look at all fees, potential or not potential in Greendale, and have a discussion of that than just throwing this one on this one. I just don't feel comfortable with this part. That's just me.
Okay, that's good. Yes, just. You ahead?
Yeah,
Go ahead, you go.
let me go first. But one thing I did want to say is the con to charging fees is you make a good dump available, residents use it, they keep up their properties more or better. I mean, that's the pro to keeping fees low and making it so, yeah, you can clear out your yard of all this stuff or and bring it down. yeah, you're not gonna accumulate garbage in your garage because you can bring it down to the dump or accumulate it in your backyard or wherever. That's a lot of reason why a lot of communities have this dumpster, just it improves the community.
Our dump is the best around, so there's no doubt about that.
Rob,
But on that sense, Todd, is our garbage is picked up every week. They've never missed a day in, I don't know how many years of it. And also we get our recycling picked up every other week. So I mean, we're constantly, we're a great community that we provide that service. Again, keep preaching that. We're open 6 days a week. We get our garbage picked up once a week. We get our recycling picked up twice a week. I mean, but you still have people coming down there, dropping off 1 day, 2 days, it's a social thing too, so.
absolutely. Sally, please.
I take it, Ron, your point would be, on the resolution that we should be developing, our 2020-13. And that in -13, we should be putting in like the disposal of a television per household, or would be $25, a whole separate thing. It's not the cost, or it's not the disposal of the television, but it's rather that it's thrown in with the fact about, non-residential owners.
Yes, I feel there's lots of fees we've chosen, and I'm not for fees a lot, but there's lots of fees across the footprint of Greendale, not just the DPW, just fees in general that we can always charge. We've elected on our boards not to pass these on to residents in the past as much as we can, because we have the taxes are paid for that. And you hit on the point, I just don't know if this is right, where we're throwing one fee charge for the year 2020. Well, the other one though is what
Starts in
that
21.
started with them. The other one just adding in there because we stumbled across it on a presentation. And it just seems out of character to put it in here. That's where I have a problem with it. I'm not denying the amount of TVs we have to pay or anything like that. I just don't-
Because, I mean, it costs us to get rid of the television. Okay,
It always
and
has.
so,
It always
and so
has.
what we're doing is we're making all of our taxpayers, all of our citizens pay for you to get rid of the television.
No.
So it's not the television part, it's the part that it's because it's in this.
No, well,
Can't we just put it in a separate resolution?
Sally, explain it, that our residents have been able to drop off TVs from probably the beginning of time since Greenville started. And they've become accustomed to it, and I get that. And it's not like we as a board decided we need to find more revenue in fees to find ways to gain fees for our bottom line. We stumbled across this because of good presentation. The DPW director said other communities did. Then all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay, if other communities do it, then we should jump in right away too. And I just have a problem with doing it that way.
I think you.
True, but there is also a problem in the fact that we get abused.
That's
Okay,
always
and
been-
by following other communities, even though that we didn't start it, and maybe we don't wanna do it, we wind up being the abuser, we're being abused
Well,
by other.
I'm not for any other community bringing TVs here. I agree that, but we didn't start looking for this stuff. This came up in a presentation and we just added it in.
But again, I would say, when you said that several times, and I just want to say to that, we asked the public director to bring it to us, and he never said to us, he just said, this is what communities do. So it would be pretty dumb for us to say, wow, we better look at this further, but if you're bringing it to us, do we want to look at doing something? So I'm where you are, and if we want to take this and spend more time on between now and we do the budget, and then kind of take a look at it, I'm for it, but I'm for this being the way it's applied. This is its own ordinance. It says on here, resolution to create fees regarding refuge and recycling. So this is its own paper standing alone. So, go ahead.
The notice was very clear that you're looking at the refuse fees and televisions. So the public, the posted Friday, there's no trickery or adding it in on.
I understand what
Jim,
you're.
I've never questioned that. I know this is the law. What I'm saying is, what I thought Ron wanted was a second part of the law. And that second part of the law was the disposal of the television rather than lumping it together. That was my point.
What I think Ron was looking for is a total another discussion on fees altogether, am I right? And not these fees, but on all the fees, if we're gonna have them, let's have another meeting. My question is, would the outcome be different, because what would be coming forth differently?
A lot of other choices. I would assume we'd have 15 or 20 other options where we could charge people to come forward. I wouldn't necessarily want to do it, I mean, that's me, but.
All right, let's go to Matt, and then,
I think that there's a disconnect, because I think what we asked Ryan to do was that we opened up the ordinance and said, bring us your suggested changes to the ordinance. And he only brought one fee to residents, and that's this one. So that would, if we, like Jim said, if we came, we would just do it again. So I'm gonna vote yes, because I don't feel like we're doing being sneaky. We just have to open up the ordinance.
If we look at all the other fees we charge, we have a great number of fees that we have not increased in over 20 years.
Like littering.
yes.
So that should, the comparables are gonna show you that you're the team that's charging considerably less for a lot of fees.
That's what we're about, and I agree with you. But at some point, Ron, we gotta be realistic. Where do we catch up? When we talk about budget shortage, and it's all coming this way, and we're trying to look at where we're getting it. If it's not from the taxpayers, then we gotta figure out where in the departments we're gonna cut to try to make the budget. And this is one of these ways where we can say, you wanna get rid of TV in Greendale, we no longer gonna pay the $50,000 for this.
I understand.
I understand where you're at.
I understand where you come from.
All right,
Makes sense.
no. We're gonna have, two more questions, so go ahead. Don?
Just one thing, because I am for the $20 fee, I think that's wonderful. But the $70 fee, if I understand this correctly, before this, a person that owned a 3-family that didn't live here could not even go to the dump. We're allowing them now to use the dump for $70, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. One more
And I
question.
guess I just want to touch on what you were saying too, is that, Andrew Michaels has come to us and said, this is gonna be a tough year. I mean, we need to come up with some creative ideas to try to keep costs down, how we can generate some revenue. And again, I think this is a great opportunity for us to move forward and at least get the ball rolling on something such as this. So.
All right, with that, I'll close this discussion, and we'll take a roll call, please, on the, everybody know where we're putting fees on this stuff.
Trustee McFall.
Aye.
Trustee Stout.
Aye.
Trustee Chadwick.
Aye.
President Birmingham.
Aye.
Trustee Guardian.
Nay.
Trustee Olet.
Aye.
Trustee Sabrowski.
So can I ask a question? Something was mentioned about possibly.
Well, no, you're right, he's right, I could manifest it. This is a vote on this thing. Yeah, sorry.
You close the discussion, they all voted it, and you get new information.
You're the last guy to get
All
on
on
it.
Kansas vote.
He's right. So,
Yes.
okay. All right, with that, we'll continue and then move on, thank you. Thank you. With that, we'll go to number 9, officers report, village manager, anything tonight?
Road projects are all wrapping up, which is good, and they're on budget. As a few of you have mentioned, we're starting the budget process, employee evaluations, departments have all sent those in to me. We've reviewed, I think, most of them by now, with the department heads, and, 5 other things we will talk about in closed session.
Can I start that real quick?
Yes.
I'm just wondering, comment, how great that patch is holding up right in front of the, EMD. And I'm wondering if there's any way that we could do that same patch on the other side before winter.
The concern with those type patches, because the concrete's unstable underneath it, asphalt's a flexible pavement method. You're supposed to have a stable base under it. That does not have a stable base under it. So we're concerned that we could in one winter get tons of cracking. And that's why we want to kind of see what it does. We want to see how the winter
So beautiful.
does it. And then before we throw, more money at it, we want to try it.
It's just so bad when you have to sign here.
All right, I have a few things. The first thing is you will all receive this week, Friday, a package review for our manager. I'll need that to be done. We'll get a package from me, and I'll probably need that before, probably give you a week. I'll have the date on there when it's due. We get it back into me. We need to review and sit down reviewing him before the budget time, so we'll be getting that done. Second thing is I wanna say, do you have a question?
I didn't get that for some reason. Could you resend it?
I didn't send it yet.
Oh.
Yeah, I said I'm putting it out Friday.
I just didn't say do it.
Just go for it. Yeah, nobody got it. You go every Friday. So the second thing is, now that's getting fall, but I want to say that this summer in Greenville has been extraordinarily great. We had all kind of concerts that we were able to do in spite of running in some trips. Our Rose Days was great. Your event went off well, so I think Greenville has a lot to be proud of. This summer, pulling off a lot of things. I think also we stayed as safe as we could. There could have been more masks, I think, out there certainly, but I think trying to keep people apart at the concerts seemed to work and did fairly well. So I want to thank everybody that was involved, all the department heads, police chief, fire chief, all the people that made that all work out for us in the meeting. That's what I say is Greenville is all about. So, yes.
I'd just like to add, since you brought it up, at the same time, our COVID numbers are lower ratio-wise than most of the communities in Whatcom County. So the COVID positive cases has been good.
Maybe at the end here, if the board doesn't mind, Sue, any update on health department stuff you'd like to add, Zoe?
As Manager Michael said, our COVID numbers did go down. So last Thursday, we were down to 6 confirmed cases, which is the lowest it's been since probably March. But as of today, we're back up to 14. So, it's flexible, and we're anticipating some outbreaks with the schools way back in session, working real closely with the private as well as the public school with all their opening plans and how to deal with outbreaks. But it's good that our numbers are going down and hope they'll stay that way.
So then, many of our events during the summer, like the concert stuff, really didn't.
No, it didn't. From the events, you said?
Yeah.
We have had some.
We had some.
Yes, yes.
All right, well, Sue, thank you very much for all your department has done to keep us safe as well. How about fire department, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, just a little FYI, I've gone over all the annual reports since I've had them in 2000. In the fire department, in a month, they've never been over 200 calls in a single month. Last 2 months now, we have reached that. We are on pace to have a record number of calls in a year. Greendale, even with the dip in April and May because of COVID, we are on track to break records. That's a record you want to break.
Yeah, really. Thank you, yes. Hold on, let me just ask the police chief. Chief, do you have anything to say? Thank you. Go ahead.
Can I ask why that's happening? Any idea? Of why we're having so many calls?
Uptick in people now because of COVID, they're more comfortable, they want to go to the hospital. We are, with our mutual aid, we are going into Franklin these last 2 months more than we have in the past. That's definitely been an uptick. So mutual aid given, we give a lot more than we receive, like a third more.
I think you had a good point on how my dad was just recently in the hospital. They said at the hospital, a lot more people coming in and where they used to just sit at home. And that's exactly what's happening. All right, and that's all I have as well at this point. So with that, we'll take the last citizens' comments. Any citizen wishing to make a comment, 3 minutes is a single, 5 minutes as a group. Good evening, good evening.
Bruce Lewandowski, 5288 Open Lane. I'd like to thank the village for all the money you spent on the flowers downtown. Beautiful, you know, the overflowing curb, beautiful, makes you want to sit there and just enjoy it.
Thank Grand Haven.
Oh, Grand Haven?
They paid for it all.
Okay.
Right at the store.
Okay, beautiful. And what you did to the jail, police department, really spectacular. I'm glad I didn't spend any time in that jail. And yeah, the fireworks were spectacular too. That was like something I've never seen before. And this UWM document that this former lady that spoke wanted you to sign on to. Wondering if you got a copy of that, that we could read.
The Board of Health has it.
Sue?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, the document that the lady wants Greenville to sign on to. Do you have a copy of that?
Yes, I do. And there's a number of different associations that have adopted similar resolutions.
Okay.
So if you can call me tomorrow,
All right,
I'm sure I have your email. I know who you are, but I can send it to you.
I'll get in contact with you. So just, you know, I don't know if you want to get an agenda, people can see what you guys are signing on to and agreeing with. So,
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for your. Anyone else, last hurrah here?
Not be a dead horse on this TV thing, but I do feel that people are not aware of this. I would venture to say if you call Greendale, 99% of the people were not aware that this thing was going to hit them today. Whether you thought it was on 8 minutes or not, it's not on minutes. And the other answer is someone said most of the TVs come from out of town. If that's the case, what you've done, you chose to penalize the people of Greendale for something other people are doing. That's not the way to solve a problem. Penalize the people that are causing the problem. Third, I think the DPW guy says that the flat screens are less cost than the big cathode ray ones. The big cathode ray ones are on the way out. You're not going to be getting many of those things. I don't even think you can get a cathode ray TV that works that receives a signal. It's all flat screen. So just by math, that stuff's going to go down. The cost is going to go down. I don't think you solved it the right way.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comment. Joe?
Joe Russell, 600 West Shore Drive, Berlin, representing 5599 Aspen Street. I'm truly not happy with the vote on the using of the dump. I think it's a slap in the face to non-resident property owners. But I guess I probably may not be too surprised about that. I guess it'll set my Buckthorn Grove anymore. So it'll make the village look better. I'd like to express my disappointment in Chief Roseno's decision to withdraw an officer from DNC duty. When a public servant, such as the chief, makes a commitment to another community for a large event, I don't expect him to have the integrity to stand by it. I guess we still have a ways to go to return to that level of service we have with Chief Downs. Speaking of the police department, I noticed a lessened presence in the village center in the past few months. This despite the issues of speeders on Northway and rolling stops on Broad Northway. Almost a year ago, I complained to the chief about this, and he had a radar speed limit sign put up. It was stolen less than 3 days later, as was a crosswalk sign on Northway. Yet in early April, it wasn't uncommon to see a squad or two parked in the then closed Southridge Mall parking lot. I understand that there was actually 0 thefts in the mall at that time when it was closed. In fact, one day, when I'm coming into the village and leaving, I noticed the squad parked there for an hour and a half. There are other areas in the village officers can sit and do paperwork, like across from Village Hall, or somewhere along Northway where their presence would deter speeding, or generate some ticket revenue. Do we have to have another Ava before the police department wakes up?
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else, last minute comment? With that, we will move, into closed session. Board shall convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.85 ILC to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employer or state government body that has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. Specifically tonight, we'll discuss voting energy goals and objections in the third quarter. And we will not return into open session. I'll take a motion for this.
Motion to move closed session outlined by President Birmingham.
Second motion.
Take a roll call vote.
Trustee Stan?
Aye.
Trustee Chadwick?
Aye.
President Birmingham?
Aye.
Trustee Bergen?
Aye.
Trustee Olet?
Aye.
Trustee Zerowski? Trustee McCall?
Very good. We'll go to closed session in about 6-7 minutes. So.